Welcome to Eat Sleep Nerd, a podcast where you can check out, go AFK, and relax with us as we discuss all things nerd. Comic books, video games, movies, TV shows, and anything else that gets geeks more worked up than an agent for an actor currently employed with the DCU.
Welcome to episode number 35. I am your dorky DJ, Corey Winter, and as always, I am joined by my nerdy brother, Josh Winter, and our geeky friends in person, Jason Summer and Christian James.
We are in the Eat Sleep Nerd headquarters today, all of us.
Ow, ow, ow. In this episode, we discuss the Hollywood Reporter's bombshell article that reports that Wonder Woman 3 is canceled and Henry Cavill might not actually return as Superman after all. Plus, James Gunn's response and further developments. We also share our reactions to trailers for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Indiana Jones 5, and even more gaming and Hollywood news. Plus, I share my review of the Callisto Protocol video game. Plus, we share our impressions of Violent Night and Willow. And before we get into the show, do not forget to share the show with your friends and family and everybody you come into contact with, and follow us on social media at Eat Sleep Nerds on Twitter and at Eat Sleep Nerd on Instagram.
We really want it to spread stronger than COVID. Just,
I wasn't quite sure what he was going to say, and he went for that.
Yeah.
Definitely could.
Yeah, we want exponential spread.
I also just want to tell Corey, congratulations on that little spiel he did. That was a one take.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I was impressed with
sometimes
myself.
he'll stumble about once or twice. That was one take. So nicely done.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And audience, we are here in person, all four of us, for the first time ever in this little makeshift studio we got going. But
no, see, if
nice.
we just stayed with headquarters, people like imagine like the Justice League headquarters or something.
I don't think
like
Or
that.
like
I don't know if they
the
would.
7.
Not yet.
But less corruption.
So which one of us is Homelander?
Dibs.
Obviously.
1000%.
I don't want to really associate with anybody in that show.
You've always struck me as a Queen Maeve.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's just kind of pretty horrible at some level. And it's like, yeah. If you recall, I watched that with difficulty.
Hey, I mean, you enjoyed it.
I said
You
I
enjoyed
recognized that it was good.
You enjoyed it. Anyway, so yes, we are here in person for the first time ever. So we're having a fun time, but we have a lot to talk about today. So we're going to jump right in. But first, I need to give Jason his moment. His hashtag Jason was right moment. He doesn't get these very often.
Because I'm often pretty far off the mark.
So on the previous episode, I was talking about how I built the Lego set, the Guardians ship. It's a set number 76193. And I kept calling it the Milano. And I assume that's what it was, because from the movies, it looked a lot like the Milano. And you were like, but isn't it the Benatar? Come to find out, it is the Benatar ship from Infinity War and Endgame. So I was half right in the fact that at the end of the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, their Milano ship was rebuilt as just the Milano.
Right.
So that's what they did have in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Right.
But in Volume 2, they actually crashed that ship onto a planet when Ego shows up. And Rocket's left behind to fix it, but then he's kidnapped by the Ravengers. And I just assumed they always went back to get that ship, but they did not. And so between Volume 2 and the next time we see them in Infinity War, they actually got a new ship that they stole from the Ravengers called the Benatar. So the ship that I built, this Lego set, was the Benatar from Infinity War. So, Jason, I guess you're like half right, but...
Yeah, I feel like Jason was all the way right, and you're trying really hard to not sound
No.
wrong.
He is correct in the fact of the timeline.
Yeah.
Like
He's right in that. He's right.
I'm just saying that was the most
Yeah.
political apology ever.
But
I was wrong, kind of.
right. Well, we've had a lot of shining examples recently of how to do that from, anyway. Yes. But for what we were actually looking at, I was 100%.
Yes,
correct.
you were. So
I'll take it. Thank you.
yes, have your moment in the spotlight.
Thank you.
And before we get into our temp check the news segment, I do want to do some programming notes. So next episode 36, we're obviously going to be talking about Avatar: The Way of Water. That comes out this week on the 16th of December. But also this movie that we completely missed earlier this year that Jason, Josh, and I have recently watched, and we're going to get Christian on it pretty soon. RRR. It is a Bollywood movie that came out, I think, back in April or something like that. And we're going to save our discussion for the next episode because we want to get Christian in on the conversation. But a quick summary, it might be the best movie of all time.
Yeah, we'll save it. I'm not going to say anything right now, but I will say this is another episode or another instance of hashtag Josh was right, because Josh was like, hey, let's just check this out. I've heard some things. And I was somewhat hesitant. Corey was a lot hesitant. And then about 5-10 minutes in, we're on board.
Yeah.
So
my expectations were completely blown out of the water within like 5 minutes of the movie.
So Christian, I can't wait for you to watch it, and then we can all discuss.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've seen some clips, and just from the cinematography alone, I was like, okay, I'm sold.
And if anybody's interested in watching before next week, and here's the reason why we did it, if I understand correctly, Josh, you saw this movie in like top 5, top 10 lists of 2022. In several articles, and you're like, maybe we should check this out.
Coming up,
right? Yeah. So it's not just an offhand thing to check out. Josh was like, "This is being recommended." So if you want to watch it before we talk about it next week, there's your reason.
Highly recommended. It's on the Netflix.
Yeah,
it's
on the Netflix.
One of their 3 things that's worth watching on Netflix.
Okay,
so that's $7 of your $20 subscription.
Oh yeah,
right there.
All right, gentlemen, are you ready to get into the nerdy news? All right, we have so much to talk about. And honestly, we took a week off, and I was kind of expecting to come back to just a bunch of news. But really, the first week we took off, not much happened. This all happened within the past 3 days. And so this is probably going to be a long episode, but everything is worth talking about. But we're going to be starting with the big headliner of just the drama continuing in the DC Warner Brothers land, and we're just going to start off
playing games with my heart.
So I wasn't sure if we were going to be bringing this one back this soon, but
do it.
I think it's time.
Yep,
the DC dumpster fire.
Gotta let it burn.
Yep.
Yeah. So. A whole lot happened. We had Variety articles coming out. We had Hollywood Reporter articles coming out. Deadline got into it. The Wrap got into it. They were all breaking stories on their own.
I think THR was the first.
So it kind of kicked off with the report from Variety that Black Adam was not going to make a profit. It was not going to break even.
Right.
And then Dwayne Johnson followed up that article by saying, he took to Twitter and saying, wanted to confirm with financiers before I shared anything. Our film will profit between $52 million and $72 million.
Fact. He said it as a period.
He said it as a fact.
One word.
And
fact.
Literally all these other publishers are coming out and saying,
full stop.
That doesn't seem to be true. That's the way this movie's going to make money. So I'm not quite sure where Dwayne Johnson's getting his news from. But the reason I bring that one up first is because that ties directly into the big bombshell report from the Hollywood Reporter that came out on December 7th. The headline is Patty Jenkins, Wonder Woman 3 not moving forward as DC movies hit a turning point. And this wasn't exclusive to the Hollywood Reporter. And so several big talking points came out of this article. The big one, obviously, that Wonder Woman 3 has been canceled in its current state. But several other things came out of this. Some talking points were that Henry Cavill and Jason Momoa have filmed cameos for The Flash, but those cameos might not be kept. Man of Steel 2, which we had previously been announced as being in development. Even Henry Cavill took to Instagram to announce his return as Superman. That movie is likely stalled, if not completely canceled, and so on and so forth. So we'll go through these talking points. But this Hollywood Reporter, guys, any initial takes from this article?
I think I'm back to the point to where I don't believe anything that's coming out about DCU until it's actually in the theaters.
Yeah.
I liked the idea of James Gunn in the seat, along with Who's the other person?
Peter Safran.
Yeah, Saffron. Yeah,
Saffron.
You know, and he's 100% right that he's like, hey, you know, I'm heading this stuff, and if you don't hear it from me, you know, it's not happening. And he has every right to say, you know, don't believe anything that you're not hearing from me. It's disheartening to kind of get that jolt of joy to see Henry Cavill as Superman at the end of Black Adam, and then be told, you know, there's a good possibility that was just a flash in the pan and nothing beyond that.
Yeah.
So the yes no longer means hope for me right now.
Oh no.
So that's just where I'm at with this, and the dumpster fire is apropos.
So I'm going to say a few things. First off, Wonder Woman 2 was trash.
Yep.
Okay, let's just get that out of the way. It was not good. Okay? And you can argue for it in a lot of different ways. A lot of people are saying, well, yeah, it made no money. Okay, it also came out mid-pandemic and was digitally released and all that other stuff. So that's not a fair argument. I don't accept that argument. The argument I do accept is it was just not good. Even if it had come out under normal circumstances, it would have been review bombed to oblivion. It just wasn't good. More than anything, I feel bad for James Gunn.
Yeah, he's taking a lot of crap.
He's taking a lot of crap over things that he has
yet.
nothing to do with.
Right.
Because what's important is James Gunn did not cancel Wonder Woman 3.
Correct.
That was De Armas and whoever the other guy is who are currently running the studio, which is the other thing and the reason that I would be pissed if I was James Gunn. For some reason, these last two holdouts from the studio are making announcements and making decisions and everything else. Like, the first thing I would have done, it would have been a stipulation in my contract, is when you brought me on board, if I was James Gunn, it is radio silence from the whole damn company. Like, nobody is allowed to say anything to anyone about anything. And so you've got these two holdouts from the old regime, the only ones who are left, DeLuca and Abdi. And I like them, generally speaking. They're the ones who finally agreed to do the Henry Cavill cameo and stuff like that. Like, I'm okay with them. But for some reason, they're still being allowed to make decisions.
Yeah.
How does that tie into James Gunn running the entire thing? Because they're also the ones who announced that they were going to be looking into Man of Steel 2, and that was not a James Gunn announcement. And so it kind of sounds like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And that's not fair to James Gunn, because now he's trying to clean up this whole mess, because he does have complete creative control over the future slate. So for some reason, these people are allowed to announce movies that he has to approve, and he hasn't approved them yet.
Yeah. So reading this article, this is where it gets juicy. Like, this is a pretty long article, but picking up kind of in the middle. And I quote, multiple sources tell The Hollywood Reporter that Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman 3 is not moving forward and is considered dead in its current incarnation. Sources say that Jenkins recently submitted her treatment, co-written with Jeff Johns, and that Gunn and Safran, as well as Warner Brothers Pictures co-chairs and co-CEOs Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdi, broke the news to the filmmaker, telling her that the project, as it stood, did not fit in with the new but still unfolding plans. Jenkins directed and co-wrote the previous two movies starring Gal Gadot and released in 2017 and 2020. No decision has been made about next steps.
I do want to clarify. I don't know why it came out like that. I'm not disappointed with James Gunn. He's in a tough seat right now. It was really surprising though how quickly the DC fans turned on him.
Yeah,
in these last
it's
two
because
months.
it's a bunch of people who don't fully understand the situation.
They
they saw the headline and they
was
flipped out.
Yeah, but it was like vicious.
Oh yeah, fired James Gunn is trending on Twitter.
And see, the thing about that is that in this same article, they actually opened up with the fact that Gunn and Safran are still working on their DC Bible and have not even yet presented it to Abdi and what's his name, DeLuca. Like, they're actually doing that presentation to them. As of this recording next week, but when this episode airs this week, it's like they have not even presented their plan for the DC yet.
Oh, he's not even presenting it to them. They're pretty much done. He's presenting it to old Zaslav.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the guy who owns the whole friggin' company. So like I said, that's what's very frustrating. What I would be very frustrated with is that DeLuca and Abdi are essentially done.
Yeah,
but for some reason they're still acting like they're in charge. That would be very frustrating. The thing that I find most interesting about Wonder Woman specifically is apparently after their meeting, she was given the opportunity to rewrite the script.
Yes. Yeah. So that came out via, who was it? I believe The Wrap. That's when they got into this party. So they reported the day after this news broke that I believe actually this is when Gunn and Safran kind of stepped in a little bit because they are dictating the future of the universe. And they were said, hey, you can go rewrite the script because right now in its current form, it does not fit.
Yeah.
And instead of doing that, she just walked. She's like, no.
She actually got a little fussy about it. And in her email where she officially turned them down, sent them the dictionary definition of character arc.
Yeah.
Saying that they were denying the right for her to close out the character the way she wanted to. I would have responded with the dictionary definition of a flop.
Oh, no.
And I mean, like, if you want to be saucy, we can be saucy. But I think she's a good director. She was not a good writer. Like, she did not write Wonder Woman 1. She did write Wonder Woman 2.
Yeah, she directed both movies, but she only wrote the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to reiterate, Wonder Woman 2 from the jump
was just not good.
Just all over the place.
And I don't know if this is confirmed. There have been leaks of what her script was. It brought back Steve Trevor again. And it's just kind of like, okay, we need to move on. If that's true, like that's...
I mean, I like Chris Pine, but...
I do too.
Yeah.
I like Chris Pine a lot.
Yeah, let's not shoehorn him in just to have him there.
I hate a shoehorn.
Shoehorn.
I hate shoehorns.
So bringing Gal Gadot's perspective into this. So the awkward timing of this all is that the day before the Hollywood Reporter article hit the internet, she actually took to Twitter. And actually, I bookmarked this tweet before that Hollywood Reporter article even hit because I thought it was going to be something we could talk about because we hadn't heard too much about Wonder Woman lately. But then this tweet has aged in a much different light. So she took to Twitter to just say, a few years ago, it was announced that I was going to play Wonder Woman. I've been so grateful for the opportunity to play such an incredible, iconic character. And more than anything, I'm grateful for you, the fans. Can't wait to share her next chapter with you. And so everyone took that to mean like, oh, yeah, there's news coming out pretty soon about her next movie. And then obviously THR published their article. And then The Wrap published their article, the follow-up article about Patty Jenkins leaving. In that same article, they actually mentioned that this has not killed the Wonder Woman franchise altogether and that Gal Gadot is actually still attached to the role at this point. The studio has yet to discuss with Gadot how she feels about continuing as the Amazonian warrior without Jenkins and hopes she wishes to stay on.
Which raises a separate set of questions.
Yep.
So, if we're okay keeping Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, does that mean this is not a full-on, full-stop, hardcore reboot? If we're willing to keep one actor, that has to mean we're at least open to keeping some of the others.
Mm-hmm. And this goes back to what I was saying, I don't know, 10 episodes ago, that the tragic part of this whole thing, other than just the confusion that we're all getting from DC and Warner Brothers, is that for these movies that we've been talking about, we almost had the perfect casting as Henry Cavill as Superman, Ben Affleck as Batman, Wonder Woman as Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman is Wonder Woman.
Right, Wonder Woman is Jason Momoa as Aquaman. And I really liked Ezra Miller's Flash.
So yeah, going back to this Hollywood Reporter article, obviously the Wonder Woman 3 news was big. They also mentioned yet again that Henry Cavill and Momoa have filmed cameos for the Flash. But on recent test screenings, they're going back and forth on whether or not to actually include these scenes because they're not sure what the future of these characters with these actors is actually going to be. So that's actually an unlocked picture, which previously we talked about it actually was a locked picture. So they're going back and forth about this film being in its final state or not.
Yep.
Which Corey made the good point of Cavill's cameo was not in test screenings for Black Adam.
Correct.
That did not happen until it literally went to print.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're missing is not, like you said, it's not locked.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because they were in previous releases.
Yes. And so Aquaman 2 has been doing test screenings recently. And as we know, most recently, Ben Affleck had filmed scenes for that movie to replace the Michael Keaton scenes that he had previously shot to tie it in because they weren't sure which movie was coming out first.
Right.
So insiders are saying that on a recent test screening of Aquaman 2, which actually is coming out about a year from now, that there is actually no Bruce in it at all, whether it's Affleck or Michael Keaton. There is no Bruce whatsoever in Aquaman 2. That actually has been confirmed by multiple sources. So,
see, I would have just gone balls to the wall and just had them both.
Yeah, I mean,
see, again, this is the part that keeps making me sad. Like, all the things that really made me overjoyed for what was coming out are just not happening.
They're all just getting pared down.
Like, you guys know how excited I was for Michael Keaton returning as Batman, and just
I know now he's gone from like 4
like now we just don't know,
one,
right?
maybe?
Right, and it's like even then it's probably like, hey, you get whopping 30 milliseconds. Yeah, so I'm just like, whatever. I don't care.
so yet again, still a couple more things from this Hollywood Reporter article.
It's still going.
So
It was a long article.
So they're saying that insiders within DC are saying that Black Adam is likely not getting a sequel, including this Hawkman spinoff that was in development.
I'm also okay with that. I'm sorry, was I the only one who just felt nothing for Hawkman?
Yeah, exactly. It's like
that's not who I would have picked for a spinoff.
he felt like an established character that didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, no, I mean, like he didn't do anything bad. Like he was good, but yeah, like it's kind of
like, who the hell is this guy?
he almost got the Avengers treatment
Yeah.
where they just assume you're already invested, and I'm not yet. I don't know who this dude is.
Yeah.
I mean, I know who he is, but I don't know who this dude is. Whereas the single most interesting character in that entire movie was by far Dr. Fate. And that's who needs a spinoff or a TV show or a... Plus, I mean, Pierce Brosnan, come on.
So one more juicy thing coming from this article about Jason Momoa. So obviously he's the current Aquaman. And obviously he still has one more movie coming out, Aquaman 2 coming out a year from now. So picking up from this article, Momoa, meanwhile, could emerge as a pivotal figure in the new plans, according to several sources. In one scenario, the actor would wrap up his days as underwater hero Arthur Curry with Lost City, due out December 25th, 2023, which would be the final movie released that was made by the previous regime at DC. But it would
he would no longer curry favor.
Oh, good one. Good one. Thank you. But he actually would, because then, but it would not spell the end of the actor's involvement with DC, with sources saying the actor would lead another movie or franchise the character of Lobo, a foul-mouthed, cigar-chomping intergalactic bounty hunter, has been mentioned in connection with Momoa.
Who is often tied to Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
And let's not forget the Momoa video that came out a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
Where he was super stoked about news and said he could not say a word about it other than it was, quote, the best day of his life.
So we had a debate about who the maestro was that he mentioned. Was this before or after James Gunn was announced as the DC boss?
I think it was almost exactly at the same time.
Because now I'm wondering if the maestro was James Gunn.
And Lobo is a very James Gunny kind of character.
Yeah,
he would have been very excited about Lobo.
So we're going to pull a Chris
Evans,
thank you. And go from Johnny Storm to Captain America?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, yeah. I forgot he played Green
Lantern.
He jumped universes, though. That was completely different. Like, Evans played 2 different Marvel characters.
That's true.
As did Michael B. Jordan.
Also true.
Also true.
Yeah.
Turns out if you're the Flash, you can be anyone.
You mean the Torch?
The Torch. Whatever. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Close enough.
Sorry.
Well, all of our, I was 2
thinking
listeners are going to rebel.
I was thinking about good comic characters.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
All right. So that wraps up our Hollywood Reporter article, but things progressed in the following
As
days.
it keeps going.
Just a reminder, this is what kicked it off.
Yeah, that was just the beginning. So,
and then
so the best thing about James Gunn, I think, is that he's very transparent, and he is all over Twitter replying to trolls, and he is about as transparent as he can be. Like, he's still vague, but like he tells people things that maybe other directors and producers would not.
He calls out fake news.
He does.
Yeah.
And so after this THR article hit, he took to Twitter the next morning and said, "So, as for the story yesterday in the Hollywood Reporter, some of it is true, some of it is half true, some of it is not true, and some of it we haven't decided whether it's true or not. Although this first month at DC has been fruitful, building the next 10 years of story takes time, and we're still just beginning. Peter and I chose to helm DC Studios knowing we were coming into a fractious? Yes, I feel like I've never actually said that word out loud. Environment, both in the stories being told and in the audience itself, and there would be an unavoidable transitional period as we moved into telling a cohesive story across film, TV, animation, and gaming. But in the end, the drawbacks of this transitional period were dwarfed by the creative possibilities and the opportunity to build upon what has worked in DC so far and to help rectify what has not. We know we are not going to make every single person happy every step of the way, but we can promise everything we do is done in the service of the story and in the service of the DC characters we know you cherish and we have cherished our whole lives. As for more answers about the future of the DCU, I will sadly have to ask you to wait. We are giving these characters in the stories the time and attention they deserve, and we ourselves still have a lot more questions to ask and answer.
I want to point out that he keeps using Alex Cross's artwork for when he posts DC comic reference images. And I don't know if there's any significance to that other than the fact that Alex Cross's artwork is just fantastic.
Ross.
Huh? Alex Ross. Sorry, Alex Ross's. Sorry. My bad.
You're almost there.
All right. I would just like to point out.
No, that's going in. So it's safe.
Alex Ross, I am so sorry. I have, just so you know, Alex Ross, I have enjoyed Kingdom Come like a bazillion times over. And I'm sorry that I got you.
He's not going to listen to our podcast.
I'm just saying, if you ever do, Alex Ross, I will never forget your name again, Alex Ross.
It's not like we don't butcher names in this podcast every single episode, but yeah. So anyway. I there's lots to take away from this tweet, but also not really anything concrete. But what are you guys getting from his response? Anyone?
That was not me. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's really good to be, especially on the DC side, that transparent, especially with the fans like coming after his throat like that.
Was it though? Was it transparent?
Transparent, like he gave us enough to sit on.
I mean, I think he got his point across that we all need to chill.
I mean, that's
just
basically what he needed to say.
Right off the bat, he's saying that some of the things in this Hollywood Reporter article was just speculation. Like it wasn't just hard facts. Like there was some room for interpretation about what the Hollywood Reporter was hearing from insiders. So he has straight up said some of it was just not true. But we don't know what parts. I think the next big takeaway is that he mentioned that they're going to be building upon what has worked in DC so far, which that kind of tells me that they're moving forward with things that have worked, maybe Henry Cavill as Superman, but rectifying what has not, such as the writing on Wonder Woman. And so for me, that's telling me this is not going to be a soft reboot. It's not going to be a hard reboot. It's going to be like a mid reboot, where they're moving forward with some things, but not other things, and doing some new things, but keeping some things alive.
So not like a raw egg, but not a hard boiled, but kind of like a soft boiled egg.
Sure.
Yeah.
I feel like that was an unneeded metaphor, but okay.
I like to make connections to things that shouldn't have any connections at all. So this is the DC Egg U.
Oh god!
Wow.
I would like I want to put a little just something a little off tangent here. My father and I we get along really well, but our appreciation of things that are entertaining are not the same. He likes spy thrillers. He likes historical fiction, history, things like that, and I'm all into sci-fi and whatever. So we don't really connect on our pulp culture stuff. He actually sent me yesterday the article about James Gunn responding to Wonder Woman 3 and in Superman. And then, so I told him I appreciated that. And then he responds, pretty cheesy Superman costume, though. On Henry Cavill. And I'm like, I appreciate that, Pop. Anyway, I just wanted to say that it's so much is going on that even he got in on it for a minute.
So I do want to actually point out, James Gunn actually did not stop tweeting. He's actually still going as of this recording. So we're actually recording on Saturday. He's still tweeting and replying to people.
Oh.
And someone straight up asked him if Superman is going to be part of the plans for DC moving forward. And he was like, yes, of course, Superman is a huge priority, if not the biggest priority.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And then he replied to other people.
Mm.
And one that I took away was that someone just called James Gunn out, which was like, James Gunn does not like Henry Cavill. And someone was like, hey, James Gunn, tagging James Gunn, care to debunk this one? And James Gunn went, sure, that's false. So it's like,
I love it.
So like James Gunn, he has no ill feelings towards Henry Cavill. So I think he'll work him into the plans if he fits into the plans.
Yeah.
And clearly everyone wants Henry Cavill back. He essentially broke the internet when he announced his returns. Like, it would be really weird for James Gunn and Peter Safran to not include him going forward.
Yeah. Like, even if the plan was a hard reboot,
yeah,
as a society, we're okay if it's still Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
We will just ignore everything that he did before.
Yeah. Okay, one more story for WB.
Oh God. Okay. I'm sorry. These are good topics, but I'm already tired of it.
Yeah.
This is
It's all terrible.
This all happened in
It's
like 2 days.
I am emotionally
Yeah.
just drained right now.
It's a deep dumpster.
This was like 2 days of stories. It was not even a full week.
right.
So,
Oh gosh.
so it came out that apparently a solo Batman film was recently in early development, and it was going to be a Batman Beyond film with Michael Keaton as the aged Batman, and the story was going to be resuscitating, which is a word straight from the article, resuscitating a romance between Michael Keaton's Batman and Catwoman.
Like Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman?
That was not a part of the story, but you would have to assume.
Old Michelle Pfeiffer.
Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
What do you think Disney would allow her?
I don't know. I'm not Disney.
I mean, they don't own her, Jason.
Well, yeah, but contracts. Contracts.
I don't know. Anyway, how do you guys feel about a potential Batman Beyond movie?
I mean, I would have been fine with it.
I would have
Like-
loved that.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoyed the cartoon.
Yeah, I never got on board for it, but
I mean, I think Jason would have liked it just because it's Michael Keaton as Batman.
yeah, I
still.
would have. Well, I mean,
But
yeah, I know it was absolutely popular. I know that. I know. I just never.
so, I mean, it's taking a step back and looking at the plans as we assume they probably were before the Peter Gunn thing. We know that the gist of it.
James
before was-
Gunn.
What?
James Gunn.
What?
You said Peter Gunn.
Did I say Peter?
you
Gunn?
might
No.
have said-
Okay.
I was like,
No.
dun.
Sorry. No, before,
I was like, that's not right.
okay, no, sorry. So before they announced that James Gunn was going to be running everything and that he was going to have his own revamped whatever, they were going to use the Flash to fix their disjointed universe, and Batman was going to be Michael Keaton at the end of it. But everyone said the same thing. Dude's like 70. Like, they can only keep that going for like a movie before he's literally too old to move. So making his solo Batman movie, Batman Beyond, where he begins training another Batman, would have fit in their new universe.
Yep.
But now that's redundant because that's not the universe we're going to be establishing.
We don't know what universe they're establishing.
Well, no,
but-
but-
Yeah, there is no universe.
But clearly the intent is not to keep Keaton anymore.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what else you think is going to happen, I think we can acknowledge that ship has sailed.
Okay, I don't like hearing that. Just stop.
I mean, it's fine.
Just stop. No
It's
more.
fine. I'm not trying to hurt you.
It's too late. I am.
But you get what I mean? Though? Like,
Yeah.
like
Deep down.
maybe Affleck's coming back, maybe not. Maybe it's going to be a brand new Batman, maybe not. Maybe the whole thing's getting recast, maybe not. But it is definitely not going to be Keaton moving forward.
All right, so that was the. Oh, you know what? Let's bring this back up.
You should.
The
Just do
Warner
it.
Brothers dumpster fire. We thought it was a thing of the past, but no, it's still going strong. It's still going strong. All right, let's move away from this into the Game Awards recap. Yes, I'm adding new sound effects.
I was not ready, and that was hilarious.
Yeah. All right, so there's not too much to talk about here. So the Game Awards, the big event for games to wrap up the year. Some awards were given out, but really it was focused on the announcements, which is totally cool. Al Pacino was there. Daniel Craig made an appearance. It was a fun time. Halsey was there. Anyway, so I think the big story to come out was that Rocksteady showed off some new footage from their Suicide Squad game. And it was a dedication to Kevin Conroy because they used this trailer to announce that Kevin Conroy is making one last appearance as the voice of Batman in this upcoming Suicide Squad game.
And that what that's referencing is if you've been living under a rock, Kevin Conroy passed away recently.
Yeah.
Which is why this is significant.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. What is Batman's level of involvement in this game?
The subtitle is Kill the Justice League. So you're going to be playing as the Suicide Squad characters, so Harley Quinn and so on. And they're actually attempting to kill people like Batman and Superman. So Batman could essentially be the antagonist of this game, depending on how you look at it.
So based on like the initial trailer, it looks like Brainiac has come and is taking over and has figured out a way to take over the minds of the Justice League. So now the people that we were counting on defending the planet are helping the bad guy take it over. So Task Force X is brought in to neutralize the Justice League. Yeah. So Batman, I have to assume for the majority of the game, is going to be a bad guy.
Yeah. But hey, it's Kevin Conroy, so.
Oh, yeah, right on.
I do feel bad that the Flash just lost a finger.
That's totally cool.
I was hoping that was his finger.
Moving on.
Yeah, so we're getting Kevin Conroy one last time, which we did not know was going to be a thing. So that's pretty cool. Nice little surprise. Moving into a story still coming out from the Game Awards that Jason wants to talk about. So Horizon Forbidden West, a game that came out earlier this year for PlayStation. Jason, you had a grand old time playing it.
I loved it.
They announced a DLC package for this game. What is it called?
Burning Shores. It's supposed to be set in LA, particularly around the Hollywood area.
Yeah.
And I guess I guess right now in our actual timeline, there's supposed to be some dormant volcano because in this trailer, there is lava flowing all over the remaining parts of Los Angeles.
It's plausible.
Yeah. So.
Honestly, it's the best thing that could happen to LA.
Oh, no. God dang. Well, all right. Well, we just lost anybody from LA.
They live there. They get it.
They know the risks.
They get it.
But apparently it's supposed to be just this expansive, enormous DLC, which was quite fun because I just love playing this game.
Yeah, coming out April 19th of next year. The Burning Shores DLC. So it looks like more fun stuff for Horizon.
Right.
This franchise is not going away. It's definitely one of PlayStation's biggest ones.
Mm-hmm.
So
they're coming out with a VR, a PlayStation VR game as well for this series, which will only be on the VR. So I won't be able to play it because I'm just not there yet. But yeah, but it looks really great. I'm looking forward to it.
And then one more big announcement. I mean, there was a ton of big announcements, but the three that kind of like appealed to us were these three. So the last one was the gameplay reveal trailer for Star Wars Jedi Survivor, the sequel to what was that game a couple years ago? Fallen Order. There you go. You guys are all over it. So takeaways from this trailer, Jason.
Oh, well, I mean, the trailer looks great, but it's really more the talk that's surrounding it is apparently it's putting, for as good as Fallen Order is, Jedi Survivor is supposed to be significantly bigger and better. And it's kind of putting Fallen Order to shame.
Yeah, so the actor, I forget his name, that plays Cal Kestis, he took to the stage after the trailer was shown, and he was like, "You're just on it." Oh, look at that. It's right in front of me. He came on stage and says, it's one of the best Star Wars games of all time. Now, I mean, he's kind of biased, but
yeah,
it's a bold statement.
Yeah,
it's a bold statement.
I mean, I thought the first one was one of the best ones of all time.
I think we've talked about this a little before. It was, I could not get past the level design. I feel like it took forever to get from point A to point B because you had to like go through hoops to get there.
Yeah.
So that was just, it annoyed me. So I never finished the game, but I know a lot of people do like it. So I love the new sound effects. So this one, all right, that's a little bit too much. All right, let's get into our smaller stories.
I don't know why I found that so funny. I just do. It's nothing, but it's hilarious.
All right, so some comic book news, like straight out of comic books. So Screen Rant is reporting that Marvel's 7th Infinity Stone has officially been confirmed to exist. So Marvel Comics has officially introduced the 7th Infinity Stone as the new Black Infinity Stone has a special connection to Thor. In Thanos' Death Notes #1 and Thor #29, the God of Thunder learns about the existence of the new Infinity Stone. However, the Black Infinity Stone appears to be connected to a deadly event in Asgard and seems to have been kept hidden in the Marvel Universe for a good reason.
Ooh,
this is changing.
Enigmatic.
This is changing up the game. So we have to start the Infinity Saga all over again? Is this where the reboot's going to go after Secret War? They're going to start all over again with 7 stones?
I'm down.
I mean, they did a pretty good job on the first, on the Infinity Saga.
Do you guys have any takeaways from this? Jason, you literally brought this to us.
Right. So I found the concept interesting, but I was like, you can pretty much already do anything if you have all
so
6 stones. What do you need a 7th stone for?
I mean, to me, it sounds like the Marvel equivalent of the Black Lantern Corps in DC.
I don't know that one.
So that one essentially, each different corps in the DC universe uses a different emotion to back up their powers, right? Green is bravery, or fearlessness, rather. Excuse me. Someone would have sent me an angry tweet. His fearlessness.
I thought it was Will.
No.
No debate.
Wrong.
Thank you.
Yellow is fear, red is anger, all that fun stuff. All the Sith tenets. And so anyway, they had a big event where there was a Black Lantern Corps made exclusively of the reanimated corpses of DC heroes. And so this was right after Bruce Wayne had died fighting Darkseid. And it was a big deal because the cover was Batman crawling out of his grave wearing the Black Lantern ring, and he was all raggedy and zombified.
I think I've seen
and stuff like that. You've seen the artwork, I guarantee it. So I don't know. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from this. Is it's going to be maybe the ability to defy death or to use death. But again, as we pointed out, if you have all the other stones, that kind of means nothing.
So I scrolled down on this article.
We continued to read.
Yeah. So
there's more to it.
The new gem was teased as being connected to Thor's dark visions of Thanos ruling an undead army while wielding an Infinity Stone embedded version of Mjolnir.
So that information was in the article, but I'd like to point out that it came to it independently.
Good job.
That is true.
Good job.
So, yeah.
Hang on, if I may, real quick. Rings: red, rage; orange, avarice; yellow, fear; blue, hope; indigo, compassion; violet, love; black, death; white, life; green, willpower.
Nah, that's bravery.
Come on, you could say it.
No, it's bravery.
No, yeah, you can say it. Come on.
I think you have a fake list.
You've already had one of these moments, Jason, in this episode.
At a certain point,
He's
you're
had so many.
Just try to catch up.
When I get hired at DC in 10 years, I'm going to change the list.
It's like a screw you, Jason.
And then on episode 1000, I'm going to be like, hey, by the way, Jason, you were wrong. I just changed the DC Bible.
All right, next story. So this is one that we're all kind of excited about because all previous iterations of this property have been trashed. So it has been announced that Stephen King's The Dark Tower is being turned into a TV show. According to Deadline, the ambitious project is in the works from Mike Flanagan and Trevor Macy's Intrepid Pictures under a new deal with Amazon Studios.
Better.
And so essentially, Mike Flanagan, he has done things such as create The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix and Midnight Mess. So he's done obviously great work. But yeah, The Dark Tower on Amazon of all places, a place known for creating awesome shows.
Yeah, awesome shows with epic scale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which are two of the things that were missing from the last big budget, quote unquote, adaptation of this, starring Idris Elba, whom I actually liked as the gunslinger.
Roland.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't remember if it was Roland or something else. But anyway.
It's my nephew's middle name, named after the gunslinger.
Nice.
You have
such a dorky family. Yeah. The fact that it is being written and produced by the guy who did Haunting on Hill House means they're not going to shy away from the horror elements.
Right.
Because it is from the King of Horror.
Stephen King.
Yeah. It is. And that doesn't necessarily mean scary. That's a big thing. We've had this conversation before. I am a horror fan, I'm not a jump scare movie fan. There's a difference. Horror is like classic horror, like Poe and so that. Anyway,
Lovecraft.
Yeah, Lovecraft. And so this is a King work that very much fits into that definition of horror. And then, of course, Amazon, most recently known for their adaptation of The Lord of the Rings, the single most expensive television show ever made, and the product reflects that. They could do this series justice because the series by itself is like 8 books long, 7 books long, and it is actually what ties the entire Stephen King universe together.
The Stephen-verse.
The Stephen-verse. Yes. King-averse? This is the best thing that could have happened. Like, I'm 1,000% on board with this.
Yeah, I think the big takeaway, Mike Flanagan is quoted as saying he views it as a series that's going to last at least 5 seasons.
Sounds right.
Good.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember the original Nuts plan that they had when they first announced Idris Elba was going to be the gunslinger?
I vaguely.
So it was going to be produced by Steven Spielberg, directed by Ron Howard, and it was going to be a series, a trilogy of movies with bridging television series in between. So it was going to be movie, series of television, movie, series of television,
right.
movie.
So Marvel before Marvel.
Kind of.
Wow.
And then they decided that was way too complicated and made a 90-minute movie, which, by the way, ignored the entire point of the series.
Yeah. Further down in this article, Mike Flanagan is again quoted as saying that Stephen King has already been involved.
Good.
This happened because I sent him a very detailed outline of what I wanted to do with it. And in response, Stephen King just gave him the rights.
Ooh.
So Stephen King has promise with this. He
That's
seems
awesome.
excited about it.
Have you guys ever heard what Stephen King does for his short stories and people who want to adapt them?
Yes.
He has a long-standing tradition where any of his short stories, not his books, but any of his short stories, if you come to him with $1, he will let you adapt it for film or television or whatever. Because he says that individually he does not make much money on his short stories, but he considers them good and they're some of the favorite things that he's ever written.
Mm-hmm.
So he wants them to get adapted. And he figures if that's a good way to help people get into their industry by using some of his favorite material, he's happy to do it.
So we're doing that soon, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Like that's But that's been his thing since like forever. Like when they adapted Shawshank Redemption, they paid him $1 because that was a short story.
Right.
Now I think he got some back end deal on that, but
I think that that's fair.
yeah,
Totally fair.
But you got to remember, it was actually a flop when it went to theaters. Not a lot of people saw it. It didn't become super
It's now
popular.
one of the best movies of that era.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read his Nightmares and Dreamscapes, which is just a series of his short stories. They're phenomenal.
Yeah.
And a lot of his books are excellent. It's the conversion to movies that are really a hit and miss with his stuff.
Correct. Definitely.
It's either genre defining or
abysmal.
just awful.
Yeah.
What was that show back in the day? Red Rose? Or
Rose Red?
Rose Red.
Yeah.
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 I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know like Gerald's Game was like a really good movie, but it was really twisted. It was basically based off of like a real life horror scenario of your partner dying while in the middle of having intimate relations.
Okay.
And but they're trapped. And the problem is that they start to go insane because they're trapped. And they don't know what's and later they don't know what's real and what's not. So it's like a psychological horror. And this is where he excels. And he does that in his stories. And if that's not conveyed to his movies, that's where stuff is lost. Anyway, but I'm stoked. I'm stoked for this. I've always felt it needed a Game of Thrones treatment. Just multiple, because Game of Thrones is multiple. It's 5 books. When he's done, it's going to be 7 books.
Yeah.
But, they gave him essentially a season per book, which I think is spot on. That's what they're going to be doing here. I'm like, this is what is needed.
Lots of breathing room.
Yeah, exactly. Have any of you ever read any of the Dark Tower books?
Yeah, I've read the whole series.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Of course he has. I have not.
No.
That was actually
Not at all.
that was actually my grandmother of all people got me into that one.
All right, so the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 trailer, the first look we've had at this movie. Let's react to the trailer. We actually just rewatched it during this recording. Takeaways.
I really love it. Like as I'm assuming it's been talked about before. The Guardians have been a secondary, maybe tertiary characters in the comic books, but they've become probably like the most worldwide favorites of a lot of people.
Yeah.
And to finally see some kind of semblance of Rocket's backstory, like the first time you saw his little face, I was like, well, definitely crying in public.
Look at that little bottom.
That's gonna be heart-wrenching if if that comes up.
So speaking of that, they did when I was a manager, they would teach you to do the sandwich method if you had to give someone bad news. And you know, good thing, the thing you need to work on, good thing again, just so that you don't hate.
Right. I learned that from Family Guy. Right.
Yeah.
So so this trailer very much does that, where it opens up with Drax beaming a girl with a ball. Yeah. Which is hilarious. And then it gets right into making you cry. And then they finish up with more Drax awkwardness at the end so that you still feel happy enough to go see the movie.
Yeah, so they haven't really told us what the story's really about yet. They're keeping it pretty secret. But the wide, what's the word I'm looking for?
Scope?
Speculation.
The belief. Thank you. The wide belief is that this is going to be the last time we see this group of characters together. Like maybe some will carry over into the next phase of this cast, but for the most part, this will be the last time we see these characters as they go into the galaxy. And speculation is that, you know, people are taking hints from everything they can get, and the wide belief is that Rocket is probably going to die in this movie. And in the trailer,
CGI artists everywhere said, "Thank God."
oh, no.
Like that one's got to be hard to do,
Especially at Marvel.
Yeah.
And so in the trailer,
So much
at
fur.
the 1 minute and 21 second mark, there's like a 3 second long thing. And it cuts to, like, it starts off with like what looks like a surgery knife dripping with blood. And it cuts to Quill crying, like tragic crying too. And I am so scared that is the scene where he discovers that Rocket has died. And I'm not going to be able to handle this movie.
Well, maybe it's something better. Like maybe Quill's being tortured.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is better, yes.
Yeah.
But
I'm okay with that.
I've also heard people speculate about Gamora.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like,
How much
obviously
longer-
we saw
how much
from
longer
the
is she
Christmas
gonna run?
special, like,
Yeah.
you know, he's grieving. Like, he hasn't gotten back to her yet.
Right.
And now into this movie, we may see him still not get there.
Like
Like, ever.
But then that begs the question, does Quill die? Because we see Nebula carrying Quill's body.
Mm-hmm.
later
Is that
on.
who she was carrying?
Yeah.
Yes. I think it was
Yeah.
Quill. Yeah.
And let's just point out, there's a lot of crying in this trailer.
There is.
Yeah.
Like-
There's a lot of agony.
Yeah, everyone at some point is upset.
Right.
I think it's
So,
at the beginning.
and just for some clarification for me, Groot is actually not the original Groot that we started with.
Correct.
He
That
is
is-
a child.
Yeah.
Yeah, James Gunn has
Yeah.
confirmed that the
Sprout.
Groot in the second and third movie is actually the son of the Groot from the first movie.
Correct. It is the
Okay.
progeny of,
Okay.
of
Good word.
Yeah,
Good
it
word.
will. Well, that was his word. It
Yeah,
is,
that's still a good one.
Wasn't it Groot?
Yeah. Well, he's well. You got.
Put him nice.
Yeah, but yeah, someone was asking him, you know, why doesn't grown-up Groot look like the first Groot? He says, well, it's not the same Groot.
Right.
It's different.
Yeah. And I like that. I mean, I like that there's enough that's similar where we recognize and accept it, but then it's like, oh, it's a little different here. We'll take it.
And I think that's just one other thing to mention before we move on is that it's our last James Gunn film in the Marvel universe for the
because-
time being. Yeah.
Because he's taking over, putting out a extremely large dumpster fire.
Oh, no.
Can you play that again?
No.
Like, can you do that like underlying when I say
Sure.
like under? Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
All right. In our next trailer, this is probably the last thing we're going to be watching before we move on to reviews. So reactions to the Indiana Jones in the Dial of Destiny trailer.
That
All
French
right.
horn, though.
So obviously it looks awesome. We finally got the name for it, the Dial of Destiny, which is a good cheesy Indiana Jones subtitle. And I think my biggest takeaway was that the sound effects, like the whipping and the gunshots and the punching, still sound old school.
Yes.
Right. That's what I was about to say. Like the sound design is spot on.
Yeah.
Like it's they remembered, and again, this is James Mangold, who is very good at taking existing properties and making them awesome. His big thing obviously being the work that he did with Wolverine. But he nailed all the things about Indiana Jones that make it Indiana Jones. You guys pointed out the sound effects. Obviously, they're bringing John Williams back for the score, which is going to be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the little stinger at the end, which drives home one of my favorite points about Indiana Jones, you know, he does his badass thing where he whips everybody so that they calm down, and then they immediately all yank out their guns. That's the best part about Indiana Jones is he's never quite as good as he needs to be.
Or as he thinks he is.
Yeah. And he gets through a lot of it with kind of dumb luck.
Right.
But I mean, that's literally the first scene you saw of Indiana Jones back in Raiders of the Lost Ark, was he gets the idol and he escapes the tunnel, is instantly surrounded by a bunch of people. Like, he's never quite as good as he needs to be in any given moment, but he gets out of it anyway. And so, yeah, I mean, that I smiled the whole time. Every time we watch that trailer, I'm grinning ear to ear. I'm so excited.
Like, something I heard somebody bring up about Indiana Jones is that it's a word I never thought would describe Indiana Jones is swashbuckling.
Yeah.
Like, when you think about that, you
Yeah.
think about like Pirates of the Caribbean, obviously like pirates, but like that's what Indiana Jones is, and it's like, oh,
Yeah, no, that checks out.
that makes it so much better.
Yeah, it's swashbuckling with pistols and punching.
And whips.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. There's a level of commitment and charisma in the Indiana Jones that is like also a weapon that adds to the swashbuckling aspect, because if it didn't have the charisma and the confidence, then the luck wouldn't carry through.
Exactly.
Yeah, it would just feel cheap.
Right.
Yeah.
The belief that he, of course, he's going to be doing the right thing, and that he's going to win this. It's the belief in it, not the fact that he's actually going to win, but the belief in it. Oh, it's not how hard you believe. Ooh. Oh.
Jason brought it full circle.
I did, without intention. Ooh.
Goosebumps.
Okay. I just goosebump myself. Okay.
So
Sounds dirty.
another thing from this trailer is something we discussed when this movie was announced and the casting was announced. Speaking of suave, charismatic people, Mads Mikkelsen,
Right.
we knew that he was in the movie.
Mhm.
I think there was some debate about who he would be playing, whether he'd be a good guy or a bad guy.
Yeah.
I was like, surely he's going to be playing a good guy for once. Well, no, right at the 48-second mark in this trailer, he's literally just wearing a Nazi uniform. So
What if he's undercover?
he could be. Like, there is
Could be
definitely
a good Nazi.
I mean, if you look earlier in this trailer, Harrison Ford is also in a Nazi uniform.
Which,
Yeah.
speaking of that, let's talk about the de-aging. Because, good Lord, does it look good.
It
Like
does.
the lighting,
Like,
all the motion in the face.
like
Yeah.
that is solid.
But I'm not convinced yet, because I feel like with every de-aging we've gotten in the past few years, it really starts to show its quality when the characters move more and talk more.
Sure.
And he didn't really move or talk in this trailer. Like, it was a very quick shot.
Well, see, and what that comes back to is whether or not the actor who it's supposed to be is playing that character. Because one of the first things you said when Harrison Ford started moving around after talking to Sala on the roadside was, "Ooh, he moves old." If that was Harrison Ford doing the capture for that, that's what you're going to pick up on, is he's still moving like an old man.
Mhm.
Right. If they did it right, which I'd like to think James Mangold is smart enough to know this, they would have had a young actor who they did the face swap with so that he moves correctly.
I think it's good that you brought that up, because that is the specific problem that I had with the de-aging of Samuel L. Jackson in Captain Marvel.
Still moves like a 70-year-old man.
They de-aged, they just de-aged his face, but they used him, and he fought like an older man.
Yeah.
You know, like, it was like, I'm like, oh, this is 70-year-old Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was the same thing in, what was the Martin Scorsese movie where they de-aged everybody?
The Irishman.
The Irishman, yeah. The effect itself was amazing.
Mhm.
But they all moved like they were in their 80s because they are.
Yeah.
And so it's cool, and I get it because that allows you to capture the performance, but it's the performance of an 80-year-old man. So I'm hoping they did it correctly. I've got faith because I like James Mangold as a director. I think he's smart. So I have faith. But
And from what we've heard, the de-aging is only in the first scene or so.
Yeah.
So it's not the entire movie. Obviously.
I've also heard that they've used unused footage from the older movies.
That'd be cool.
Oh,
like they did with Rogue One when they brought Wedge Antilles and whoever back.
right.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah. I would also like to point out we're at the 45-second mark here on the trailer. There is a bloody bullet hole here on his chest, which makes me wonder how he acquired that uniform.
I was gonna say he has a tradition of finding those.
Right? Yeah. I'm just yeah. Quote finding. Yes, but he clearly has not been the one shot. So
yeah,
just want to point that out.
Yeah, and he's still doing his professory things. So.
Right, he is. But now he has an overhead projector.
I was gonna say it was cool seeing the progress of time.
Which is really funny because it's progressed in time then, but it's now really archaic for us.
But now I will say, in the spirit of objectivity, as blown away as I was with the de-aging, some of the footage that he is on the horse, I hope gets a few more renders before it makes it to the theater.
I was going to bring that up. That was to your point to using the young actor.
Yeah.
Or another actor.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, when he's on the horse.
That was not Harrison Ford.
That was not Harrison Ford.
Which is interesting because Harrison Ford rides horses. Like he has a ranch.
Oh.
So maybe it was just easier since there were stunts involved.
Exactly.
Just to use someone else. But
insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's not in a plane. It should be fine.
No.
It's not the door of the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Harrison Ford has a tragic and consistent history of flying private planes that just fall out of the sky.
So yeah, coming out June 30th, going to be a huge blockbuster next summer. June is going to be stacked with movies.
Most of the summer is going to be stacked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. We went 2 years, 3-ish years without movies, like basically. So yeah, we've got a backlog of movies.
This might be, everybody was saying 2022 is the resurgence of movies. I'm wondering if 2023 is going to be.
I think 2023
it's going to be a big year for video games, movies, everything.
I think everybody's trying to get their footing again this year, and everybody's just about to hit a full stride.
Yeah, everybody wanted this year very badly to be it, and I just don't know if the actual content backs that up. But next year, I think is going to be solid.
I mean, it was a good year.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
All right, let's just very quickly talk about these two things because I really want to. I'm just going to quickly say this: Mandalorian season 3 coming March 1st. Woo! All right, so nailed it. All right,
awesome.
We'll be talking about that one. So also a big one, which we were not sure was going to happen because of the health of the actor, but Nobody 2, the sequel to Nobody, starring Bob Odenkirk.
Nobody knows
the action sequel is aiming to film next year, so they are moving forward with a sequel to Nobody, despite. Bob Odenkirk's recent, what was it?
It was a mild heart attack.
Yeah,
just a mild heart attack.
He took it like a man, and now he's going to hop right back up on that horse.
Yeah, we loved this movie. I think it was before we had this podcast.
Came out of nowhere. Yeah.
Came out of Nobody?
No, came out of nowhere.
Okay.
Yeah, I was
you
try.
Yeah.
You try. I was also working on something in my head. Just nothing. Yeah.
It was the movie nobody was expecting.
All right, let's get into our spoiler review section. We're probably an hour and a half into this episode already, but we're going to keep going. So we are talking about reviews for the Callisto Protocol. I have just recently played that video game. I have some thoughts. We're also going to be talking about Violent Night, the new Christmas-themed action movie starring Santa Claus killing people, and the recent Disney Plus series, Willow. So let's start with Willow, I think. Okay. So, Jason, a few episodes ago, I promised that I would go and watch the, 1980-something Willow movie. And I would come back to you on this podcast and share my thoughts.
Did you watch it?
I did. I did watch
Wait, did you watch the show or the movie?
The movie. I had to watch. Okay. So I'm talking about the movie first.
Okay. I just want to clarify.
You had to watch the movie to watch the show.
Yes.
And I told you I was going to share my thoughts and make it a secret during this recording.
Yes.
And we knew going in, I was not a huge fantasy nerd. Right. The only fantasy I've really ever enjoyed was most recently this year with House of the Dragon, which It's really hard to call that fantasy. It's just medieval stuff. And Rings of Power, and I think the reason I've liked Rings of Power so much is just because like it's just one big battle with swords and stuff. So it's cool.
Okay, so everybody who's listening right now, I'm sitting with my eyes squeezed shut, waiting for it. But Corey, continue.
Put the hammer down.
I couldn't finish it. I could not finish it. So it was the type of fantasy that reminded me of the type of fantasy I do not enjoy. And it's the kind of fantasy with like fairies and that's where it loses me. So I got about an hour into it, so about halfway through. And I saw Val Kilmer show up and all that stuff. So like it was fine. Okay, so I can see why people could enjoy it.
So I do have to say the second half of the movie is the better half of the movie.
Of course.
However, I think I can validate what you're saying. Yeah, I get it. It was very 80s fantasy. Yes. Thank you for giving it a shot.
Yeah.
If you want to finish it, the second half, at least get through the snow scene where they sled off the mountain. Because that to me, that's like the most fun part of the movie.
For those who could not see it at home, Corey made a face to fully indicate that he has no intention.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Yeah.
Well, so this was all leading up to the Disney Plus series, essentially a sequel to the original movie.
Right.
So Christian, you said that you watched the Disney Plus series. Did you actually go back and watch the movie as well?
I did not watch the movie.
Okay. So do you have any knowledge of it? Like, do you know what it's about prior to the series? Like prior to watching the series?
Well, the thing was, I felt like watching the first episode of the series and how it began, it pretty much gave a pretty decent
See, that was going to be my question.
Jason, you made me go watch this movie. But I could just watch the show.
Yeah.
But he didn't know that when he told you to do that.
Well, I mean, like that's how I feel about it. Yeah. See, it's like they gave you a gist of.
See, that was going to be my question though. Was as someone who had not seen the movie, did you feel lost?
Not very.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's good.
Well then, okay. Well, let's go and just talk about the first episode of Willow. Yeah. I have not seen it. Josh, I don't believe you've seen it. So
did you watch both or just one episode?
Just the one episode.
Okay.
Well, Jason, you're a big fan of Willow. Mm-hmm. What were your takeaways?
I hated it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Left turn.
Yeah. I wanted to like it so much.
Okay.
I really did. And it did not have, for me, it didn't have the heart and the feel of the movie that I love so much.
Did it feel like a soulless cash grab?
No. It felt like people who were trying to reminisce about something that they could never regain.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the I think the execution was bad. The concept was good. The execution was bad. Warwick Davis made me cringe. I wanted to, like, Willow to me was a very endearing character in the movie.
Yeah.
And he's now taking over the role of the bearded magician wizard.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's doing the same things, but he's putting a comic spin on it, and it's not working for me. It's making it just pointless and fake, and he's coming across more of it as a charlatan rather than somebody to be contended with. And I know that that's probably going to be the arc, but also the characters are just annoying to me. I'm not on board at all, and I am very disappointed. So I'm going to watch it because I want to follow through, but I'm so far not happy at all.
So Christian, having no familiarity with Willow, what were your takeaways?
I mean, I'm kind of with Jason. Like, it's like the how they started it with the characters and kind of gave you like who they are, and I was like, I don't care. like what is this?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I watched the I guess you call it trailer that Netflix gave you to the movie, and I was like, okay,
the recap
of the movie. So I was like, okay,
yeah.
So I started watching the show,
okay,
and I was like, they were building up Willow like it was a fairy tale. Get it? blah, blah. And you finally meet him and it's like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like, this is not special.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he should have been. It should have been like running into Ben Kenobi for the first time. It should have been like that. And it wasn't.
Yeah. And like, yeah, that first episode kind of just ended. And he made a big reveal.
Right.
Which was cool. I was like, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, right.
But where is this going to go? Mm-hmm. But that being the most interesting part of the whole episode,
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry we asked you to watch that.
Man, it's all right.
I mean, here's the thing. We don't know. And we go in hoping. Like, that's, like, and this is how I know that, like, I'm pretty objective about these things because I really wanted to like this. And I'm just like, this sucked.
All right. Well, then let's go ahead and score it. So, Christian, what would you give it after one episode? Out of 5.
Yeah, I remember now. For what it is right now, I'll say like a 2.5.
Oh, even the decimals. All right. And Jason.
1.5.
Wow. Whoa. That might be the lowest we've ever scored anything ever. It really is. That is actually the lowest score we've ever given. We've never gone below a 2.
Yeah. Warwick Davis, I'm sorry. Sorry, man. I'll keep watching, though. Hopefully you get better.
All right. So I'm going to do probably our first proper video game review on this podcast. I've done a couple other like impressions. I think I did Saints Row, but I really want to like give an in-depth video game review for the first time. The Callisto Protocol. It's a recent horror space game in the same vein as games like Dead Space. And we've had this discussion on this podcast about how this year has been really light in video games and like there was really not much to look forward to. And usually that's not really the case. But going back this entire year, like there were 3 games that I was kind of looking forward to. This was probably the biggest one. And so I had high expectations, but I had tempered expectations. Like I knew it could be not as great as I wanted it to be. And this is coming from someone that really loved the Dead Space series. And this is actually a game created by one of the original creators of the original 2008 Dead Space game. And in the pre-marketing for this game, they made it very clear that they're not shying away from the comparisons to Dead Space. From the story to the way the gore and action is presented, even the way like the health bar in the back of your neck is presented, it's all straight from Dead Space. Like they were gearing this up to be like a spiritual successor to Dead Space. And in some ways that can be a good thing because it's like you do things better than Dead Space, then wow, you're going to get good remarks. But in this case, this really made the game look like trash.
Oh no.
I had such a bad time with this game. This was single player only, which typically I like. It's like a story-driven, narrative-driven single player game. And about 10 hours long. So a pretty decent length for a single player story-driven game.
That's it?
Yes. So, and it was so boring. I cannot believe they thought this was going to be like the next big blockbuster video game. So going point by point, obviously it was hard not to make comparisons to Dead Space, which really worked against it and basically every single aspect of the game. But just starting with the story, like the big thing that was supposed to like drive this game is that the story was just instantly forgettable. Like even as you're playing the game, going through the story is instantly forgettable. There was nothing significant about this game, nothing noteworthy. It was poorly written. There were hints that it could be something awesome, and it did, granted, pick up in the like last 2 hours of the game. But that means like the first 8 hours, nothing happened. So it was literally
you don't want a situation where you have to get 80% into it before it gets good.
Yeah. So it was so boring. There was no takeaway from it. And that kind of leads me to my next point, that this was billed as a horror game in the same vein as Dead Space, to where like the atmosphere by itself was a character that built suspense and anxiety.
And Dead Space was scary.
It was very scary. Like it's like there were jump scares, yes, but it was like a psychological horror game. So like, spoilers, if you have not played this 15-year-old game, like halfway through the game, you realize that your protagonist is hallucinating things and like you're not sure what's real and what's not. And that's what made that game so scary. And what makes a lot of games that are horror games so scary is the psychological element to it. This game had none of that. And so they relied very heavily on the gore to make it a horror game, but the gore kind of sucked as well. But I'll get to that in a second. So there was no psychological anything in this game, and they teased it, which is actually the frustrating part. So like maybe half an hour into the game, it's so setting up the actual just setting up this game. So the idea is that you are a pilot, Jacob. You're a cargo pilot, like essentially a FedEx guy in space, and you're
Planet Express.
Yeah. And your ship crashed after some events, crashes onto a moon planet that is the home to a prison. And you think you're being rescued by the prison system, but essentially they actually just arrest you and put you directly into prison without actually questioning you or anything. Anyway, so shortly after becoming a prisoner in this prison, you discover that the prison is being overrun by some kind of creatures, aliens or something, monsters. And so you find your way out of your cell, and the entire plot of the game is essentially you trying to escape this prison and escape this planet that's being overrun by these creatures.
Now, see, that sounds like it should be interesting.
Sounds awesome, right? And so, guys, so right after you escape from your cell, you're out in the world for the first time, and it's a very linear game. I'll talk to you about that in a second, but you're going down this hallway and you hear this like whispering, and remember your character's name is Jacob, and you hear this whispering, Jacob, Jacob. And it's like progressively getting louder, Jacob, Jacob. And then someone just screams, Jacob. And your character's like scared, like, what the heck was that? And then they never come back to explain what that was. At no point in the story do they actually explain. Yeah. So like they tease these psychological things with no resolution. And like later in the game, like halfway through the game, like you go back to your crash ship and like you see a hallucination of your dead friend that died in the crash, but they never revisit that as well. So like there's no psychological things in this game at all that could have made it better. So the atmosphere kind of sucked, just from the maps. Like it looks dirty, like there's dead bodies everywhere and blood everywhere and like flickering lights, but like it doesn't really build any tenseness. Like there's no suspense or anything. It's just like, oh, someone forgot to clean up those dead bodies over there. Where like in a game like Dead Space, like the atmosphere is a character. So like if you walk into a room and like there's no lights and like there's a flickering thing, you're like, oh my God, what's about to happen? In this game, there was none of that. It was just like someone threw some levels together and it was boring. So that takes me to my next thing. The level design. So it's all linear, and like to a T. It's a very point A to point B game.
So kind of boring.
Very boring, and it's repetitive. So like every single chapter, every single mission, for 10 hours, it was really point A to point B. Like there was no point A and a half or optional side pass. Like there was none of that. It was you go down this hallway and that leads to another hallway and that's it. So that was extremely repetitive and boring. There were occasionally little side hallways that you could optionally go down, which in a lot of games like this, that would lead to like a cool collectible or some kind of like little side story that plays into the bigger picture of the game if you so choose, or at minimal, a room with tons of ammo and health and stuff. No, there were just occasional hallways that led to literally nothing. And they were like long hallways too. It's like it was like 10 to 20 minutes of my time that I just wasted doing nothing. It's like I was having to consistently backtrack because also there was nothing telling you which hallway was like the main storyline and the optional hallway to go down. So that was frustrating, and it just consistently happened. Kind of taking this back to the lack of horror. There were some cheap attempts at jump scares. Like if you walk into a room and like one of the alien creatures like comes out at you from nowhere, but like you see it coming from a while away because like it's making noise before you even enter the room. It's like you know it's going to happen. But then like they set it up as a jump scare anyway. I did not jump scare a single time. Nothing got me. But like early in the game, like you actually climb through like air conditioning ducts occasionally, and like they'll lead to like the next hallway or something. And it's actually pretty cool. Like it's a third person game. So like the camera's situated behind your character. And when you crawl into one of these air conditioning vents, the camera actually shifts over to your right shoulder and like it zooms in to where most of the screen is being taken up by what's ahead in the air conditioning vent. And so as you're crawling slowly through this vent, and like they have turns and stuff, so like you go straight and then like there's a left turn up ahead. As you're crawling, it's setting you up to build suspense, like, oh, somebody could jump out from this air vent at any second. Never happened. So like they wasted these perfect opportunities to have these scary, tense moments, and they just never did. So that sucked. Leading me to my next thing, 2 more points. The movement was stiff as crap. So for a third-person game, ideally you would have your movement controlled by your left thumbstick. So I was playing on PlayStation 5, and your camera controlled by your right thumbstick, right?
Correct.
And so you can move your camera independently from where you're moving. No, in this game, the camera was stuck to the back of your head. And so especially when combat comes into play, that makes defending yourself next to impossible. It's like if you're fighting 2 enemies, one is in front of you, like you're hitting him, one comes up behind you, you cannot turn around fast enough to actually block the attack. So even if you're playing on easy, there's no way to actually block people coming up behind you. So it's just the movement is slow and sluggish. And tying that into the combat.
Okay.
This will be my last point. A big emphasis on this game was the ability to dismember your enemies. So it is a very gore-heavy game. It's like you can cut off limbs, you can cut off heads, you can do all that fun stuff. But in the pre-marketing...
Fun stuff, huh?
Oh.
Yeah.
No. So in the pre-marketing to this game, they really like, oh yeah, the amount of ways you can kill an enemy is so great. It was the exact same every single time. And so the big emphasis was on melee combat with like this really cool like stun gun baton thing that you took from a guard. And that was the majority of how you could kill enemies. But the weird thing, tying into the mechanics of the game, you also have throughout the game, you find a couple of pistols and a shotgun. But the weird thing is that the melee button on PlayStation, at least, was the right trigger button, the right R2 button.
Mm-hmm.
The way you could shoot a gun is you first aim with the left trigger button and then shoot with the right trigger button. So essentially, the melee button and the shoot button were the same button, which could be okay. However, the square button on PlayStation, which would be the X button on Xbox, was not used for anything. So why was that not the melee button? Like, so this kind of goes back to Jason when you played Cyberpunk. Your big takeaway was that you struggled with the layout of the controller.
Right.
And I was like, well, I think you can actually remap those to customize to your experience. And you're like, well, you're kind of with the mind you shouldn't have to. Like the default control should just be good enough. Mm-hmm. In this case, you could remap those controls. Like I looked at the menu, you could remap buttons, but yet again, I'm kind of with you on this. Like the default control should have just been fine. Like customization should just be for preferences. But like in this case, who thought it was a good idea to make the melee button and the shoot button the same thing?
Right.
Because that caused issues in combat where because shooting something is a lot quicker than hitting something because you have to like wait for the swing to come around. A lot of the time when I'm trying to like shoot someone, I ended up just swinging my baton. So I died because it took too long to get my gun out or something. So
that just sounds absolutely annoying.
It was so bad. And so that kind of like my last sub point is that the enemies were completely forgetful. Like they were essentially humans that were infected by this alien virus that turned them into
more
like
zombies.
Monsters. So more zombies, but like forgettable zombies. They were essentially just human figures that looked gross. So like if you think of a game like The Last of Us, where you had like the clickers, like you can instantly picture what the clickers look like, right? Like fungus growing out of everywhere.
Right.
This game, I played this game as of yesterday, and I have already forgotten what these enemies look like. Like they're so...
I would actually go to the hospital over that. You may want to get a brain scan.
So anyway, I'm of the mind with video games that even if a game is not typically a genre that I would enjoy, I can see how other people might. So like I can very easily give the benefit of the doubt for a video game if I can see the potential for other people. For like most recently for Returnal, I played that about a month ago, and like it was a critically acclaimed game. I started playing it. I was just like, it's not really for me, but I can very easily see how other people could enjoy this. For the Callisto Protocol, I could not see how a single person could have anything positive to say about this game.
Oh.
It was trash.
Wow.
The only good thing, honestly, I will say this. It was beautiful. Like the art team, they did their jobs.
Okay.
It was so beautiful. But everything else about this game
So they should just like sell wallpapers.
Basically.
Yeah. So from the story, lacking, level design sucked, movement and combat mechanics were awful. I really wanted to give this game a 3, which is typically like my 3s to 4s in video games. That's like my cutoff for if I recommend it or not. I almost gave this a 1 out of 5, but it's not a broken game. Like, I know there was launch day issues with PC, but I didn't have that experience on PlayStation. Like, I could not find a single bug with this game. So, like, it was not a broken game. So I'm giving this a 2 out of 5 for the Callisto Protocol.
I think that's one of the lowest ranks you've given for anything.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my Callisto Protocol review.
More like a rant.
Waste of my time.
Yeah.
I did. It was a rant. I knew it was going to be a rant too. I had feelings because they hyped it up so bad. Like, even we saw Violent Night going into our next review. They had commercials about this game in the theater. Like, they're like doing a bunch of marketing for this game. Like, they're hyping it up to be like the next big thing. But oh God, it's so bad. It's so bad. Anyway, rant over. 2 out of 5 Callisto Protocol.
Well, Corey, I'm sorry that you're so let down.
I was looking forward to this game all year.
I'm sorry that happened to you.
If I could fix it, I would. I would, because I don't like to see you.
Well, the good news is that Dead Space remake is coming out in January. So,
hey, there you go.
Get another try. All right. Violent Night, the new Santa Claus action gore movie.
Die Hard with Santa.
Die Hard. Essentially, that's exactly what it was. So we planned to have all 4 of us go see this since we were all in town. Jason, you were under the weather, so you could not make it, unfortunately.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay.
But
you missed out.
I
feel bad for you. Like,
yeah,
I'm not.
I feel bad for me.
Yeah, I'm not mad at you. I feel bad for you.
I feel bad.
I mean, this was.
It was supposed to be our first hangout with all 4 of us with Christian as well. Yeah. So I do feel bad about that part too. So I'm sorry.
It's all right. I showed up late. So.
No, I will say, I mean, it was not. I don't think you missed like a blockbuster or anything, but it was a great movie to put you into the spirit of holidays. It had a weirdly sentimental.
It really did.
Plot.
Like, he said
undertones.
it like a joke, but it's not a joke. Like, it's actually
okay.
So my first thought when I saw the trailer for this was, oh, it's going to be like Fat Man with Mel Gibson, which I liked Fat Man. It was interesting, but my first thought when I was done watching it, and I think, did I make you watch that with me?
No, I remember you. We were going to. I never did.
Okay. So, like, it's interesting. And it was funny. And despite everything, I still enjoy Mel Gibson's body of work. I understand as a person he's had issues, but I like Mel Gibson movies. But my thought at the end of the movie was, that was interesting. There are things I would have done to make it better. It's not going to be a movie that I watch every year at Christmas time. Violent Night, I think, is going to be a movie that I watch every year at Christmas time.
Huh. Okay. All right.
Yeah, my holiday choice of movie, especially for Christmas, as Josh knows, is A Christmas Story.
Yeah.
Nice.
They replay it on TBS all day.
If you don't watch it 4 times on Christmas Day, what are you doing?
You're right.
My last score was 10 times in a row.
I'm impressed.
Okay. It just never gets old.
Yeah.
But now seeing Violent Night, it might get replaced.
So I have 2 categories of Christmas movies. You have like the classics, like Christmas Vacation. You got to watch that one.
Well, yeah, of course.
But then you have like the action side of Christmas movies. And so in my case,
where we all jokingly say it's a Christmas movie.
Like
yeah,
Die Hard and Lethal Weapon.
I was going to say, so mine is Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people's is like Die Hard. So I think Violent Night is kind of sneaking in there because it was a fun time. Like, it was not a perfect movie. And a lot of it was just like cheesy for no reason. But it was a fun time. It was loaded with
puns.
But like, for this kind of movie, that's kind of what you want.
You could tell everyone was having fun.
So you didn't harbor any ill feelings.
Yeah, he did it.
That's the guy that played Santa.
All right, so for those who don't know anything about this movie, the premise of it is 100% someone was sitting down having a drink and said, what if we got David Harbour, who is the sheriff in Stranger Things, or the most recent failed adaptation of Hellboy? What if we got him to dress up as a tongue-in-cheek Santa and he just beats the crap out of bad guys? And they turn that into a movie. And it works out. The premise of it is a wealthy family gets together for the holidays, and their home is taken over by a group of thieves and or terrorists, depending on what you want to call them, who want to rob their safe. They happen to do this while David Harbour's Santa is there dropping off the presents. And because the girl who is at the house is a good girl and is on the nice list, Santa agrees to help and defeat the terrorists.
I know it sounds like a weird movie, but the trailer looked so much fun. Like so much
It
fun.
was.
Yeah.
And it did end up playing literally as a huge homage to Die Hard as far as structure goes.
Yeah.
So it is not the trailer almost made it look kind of John Wickian as far as the action goes.
Yeah.
I was anticipating that like the action would start and then just go nonstop for like 90 minutes. Yeah. It's not. It is very much structured like the original Die Hard, where first we establish the location, the characters all get trapped in the location. Then it's brief period of action, more development, brief period of action, more development. And then the third act is more or less nonstop action.
Yes, definitely a lot of callbacks to Die Hard, but also there was a sequence that was very reminiscent of Home Alone.
Yes, and they were very, very, very on the nose about that.
And
they straight up said it.
Like a real life Home Alone.
Probably the most shocking scene of the movie.
A rated R Home Alone sequence where the little girl sets up booby traps and it plays out like it would have in Home Alone if it was not rated for children.
Like if he was out to kill them, that's what would have happened.
Yeah. Now, if you like that, Jason, let me just say that my favorite part of the movie was where we delved into Santa Claus's Viking backstory.
That's how come he knows how to fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
And,
we need a reason.
And
like, how is he able to
his
do
primary
this?
weapon was a warhammer.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I wouldn't
so-
say fighting is his background, just bludgeoning.
Yeah. and again, but I mean, like it is exactly what it sounds like, but it is so much fun.
But it weirdly had heart.
And it did. And they did not shy away from the sentimentality of Christmas. Like at its core, that is what the movie is about. Is about Christmas.
And that's an interesting line to walk.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was.
It was.
And it was. And for the most part, they did it successfully.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say there weren't wonky parts.
John Leguizamo, he's the bad guy,
Mm-hmm.
and they gave him depth.
Yeah.
Or
Where-
John,
Really?
John
that
Leguizamo
person?
forced depth.
Yeah,
I
they
don't,
forced-
I don't,
yeah, I mean,
I don't know
his-
which one it was.
His acting, like his story to the whole movie was
better than it had to be.
Yeah, exactly. For what it was,
Okay.
you're like, oh man, I feel that.
Yeah. Like you actually end up feeling a little bad for him.
Okay. All right.
So, Violent Night. If you just need a good new Christmas movie where Santa Claus beats the ever-loving crap out of people and murders people.
And who doesn't?
In the spirit of Christmas.
And really, to add another little adjective, drunk Santa. It opened the movie with him at a bar drinking, and it was awesome.
He's lamenting that kids are all kind of crapheads now, and that he really doesn't even want to do Christmas anymore.
Oh, man.
Which is, again, it kind of comes back into the whole, this is a legitimately good girl who's on the nice list. It's, you know what? I'm going to help you.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And, I mean, there's lots of little running gags. Like he's got his sack is magical and he keeps trying to pull things out that will help him. But everything he pulls out is a video game. Because that's the only thing kids want. So he keeps pulling out the same box over and over.
So there's a
funny.
logic to it. So there's a logic to the universe, and the logic works.
Correct.
Yes.
And they stick to it. They adhere to it.
I like that.
Yeah. Like it is an action comedy that takes itself more or less serious in regards to its own situation and to the spirit of Christmas. Like I said, this is one I will probably end up watching every year.
Which was probably one of my favorite lines in the movie was like, he was talking to the little girl at the end. He was like, you made me realize how much Christmas matters and how much I matter. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What?
Wow.
While his face is covered in
I'm
blood.
tearing up right now, and I didn't even watch it.
I know. Little girl is just like, what would you want for Christmas? And he's like, I just want to see Mrs. Claus. Like it has no reason to be that deep.
Yeah.
But
No reason.
But it is.
But it's there, and it was good.
All right. Well, I want to score this.
Well,
So-
it was already scored by Dominic Lewis.
Wow. All right.
Hey, I didn't watch the movie, so I can only contribute puns. That's what I can do right now.
I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. Because, we've given, much better movies a 4 out of 5 and even lesser scores. But, yet again, for how fun it was.
It's
4
a
out of
very
5.
different beast.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like Yeah, I don't know how else to say it. Go watch it. Like, it's fun. A lot of language, a lot of gore. It's very much an R-rated movie. That being said, if you are an adult, go see it. It's hilarious. You'll have a good time. I give it 4 drunk Santas out of 5.
And Christian.
I give it 4 icicles to the back.
Nice.
Yes.
Oh man, I should have said 4 nails to the chin.
Yeah.
That was like the anyway. So that wraps us up. That obviously math checks us out. 4 out of 5 for Violent Night.
See, 4.
Yep. I think that makes sense. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess I'll try to watch it sometime soon.
I think you
Yes,
should.
please watch
I
it.
think you should.
We'll keep up on the Willow.
Yeah,
Shaking
I'm
my
just
head.
gonna let
Yeah,
y'all have
yeah.
that one.
It's okay.
I had no desire to watch it in the first place. Now I really don't. Like, if the fans of the franchise aren't even on board,
Well,
I'm out.
they don't have a franchise. It's just a movie. So
It's a
not even
franchise
that.
now.
They're trying to make it a franchise. Make it a piece of shit. Anyway, so
All right, don't forget on episode 36 that comes out next week, we will be talking about RRR, which is like I feel like they need a different name for that. And also Avatar: The Way of Water. Listeners, I wanted to say like 3 different things right there. And I couldn't decide which one. Do not forget to share this show if you enjoyed this 2-hour-long episode.
2 hours.
Please share this show. It's not going to be that long. I'm going to cut it down. But please share this show with your friends, family, enemies, neighbors, pets. I don't know. They might listen. And also follow us on social media and be on the lookout for more episodes.
Because you know they're coming. We're not going to give up on this.
We're not giving up.
You know what? And honestly, folks, even if you don't listen to it, just share it. I don't care at this point.
And if they got this far into the episode, they're probably listening to it.
Well, I mean, you can just press play and then walk away.
Yeah, you can. And you just
You know
came
what?
back.
That counts.
You came
That
back
counts.
at this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave it on for your pets when you go to work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually have done that before for Danny.
He's coming. He come back. He's like, "Shape Narb, Shape Narb." That's Danny's voice for some
Or
reason.
somehow
do,
has
yeah.
cotton balls in his ears.
Well, speaking of
Cotton
Eat,
balls.
Sleep, Nerd,
Oh, sorry.
do we have a recommendation for what our listeners should be doing between now and the next time we listen to us?
So what you just listened to, folks, was Corey's way of segueing to Jason. Get us the heck out of here. So I'm going to make the recommendation that all of you eat, sleep, nerd.
Take it easy, people.